In this session, we want to look at how to GRV a purchase order. Now, we've already created the purchase order, so what I'm going to do is just select the correct purchase order that I would like to GRV, and then I click on the GRV button at the bottom here. It's then going to take our original purchase order and link it to the GRV. In other words, this is now my goods receiving screen. We can now specify the GRV date, and then I'm going to say the 18th, and we can specify the original document date. In other words, this was the date that is on your supplier invoice. Your delivery method, your order number, all of the detail will be used from the purchase order. All you have to do is type in your supplier invoice number. I've already explained that this invoice will be an exclusive GRV. Specify the warehouse if warehousing is switched on. And our items will also display. If you now received your GRV and you see that instead of you ordering 100 t-shirts, they actually only delivered 95, you make the change here on the GRV and you enter through. You can add extra charges. What we now want to do is we want to click on process and display. In other words, I've already in another session explained the calculator, the long description, item details, the amend option, flash reports. So now I'm going to click on process and display. Now the reason why the screen's coming up is because we have selected an item that's got an expiry date. So first of all, I will say expiry date, that's correct. What is the batch number? And all 10 quantities have got the same batch number, or if it didn't, you can say this is the batch number for a different amount, and then in other words you'll add every time you've got a different batch number, and then I can accept. Now the next screen I have is because I also have a serial number. So I actually have two items that I've purchased that has a serial number. So I've got to type in the serial numbers. I'm going to type in two different serial numbers, and then I can say accept. And then I click on process again because now I've entered my batch numbers and my serial numbers. And then we will have our goods received preview. In other words, here we can see the serial numbers we've entered. It will show us 95 items arrived. So if I close the screen, we will see that our purchase order actually shows up in green. That means it's a partially invoiced purchase order. It tells me that it's got a GRV date, but if there's still a total, it means that you still have an outstanding amount. If I edit that purchase order now, you will see that you have 5 items here on remain, which means we've ordered 100, but only 95 arrived, which means you can, at a later stage, when the goods arrive, GRV this purchase order. Just to show you again, the report that will show the partially processed goods is our report over here, partially processed orders, and we will have our item here. So we must make sure we keep track of all the partially processed purchase orders. And that concludes looking at how to GRV a purchase order.